I would take personally the number of people who did not get 100 on the take-home quiz. What frustrates me is what I perceive as a lack of caring. Stop writing. When something is take-home, first off, you got it as you walked in the door yesterday. So if there was a problem with how to do any of these questions, you should have known that right away. It shouldn't have been like you needed to go home, look at the questions, and at home go, oh no, I'm lost on these. You should have realized it as soon as you picked up the quiz, sat at your seat, and looked at the work for the day. Now, let's say that you looked at the work and you said, oh my God, I don't know how to do one of these two questions. Then you should, at that point in time, talk to somebody during the school day to get a clue how to do this. Or, when you get home, look on the ones we did a couple of days ago, just like number one on the video. That's what the website is for. Or Skype or text or whatever with your friends to get working on that question. When I see somebody come in with the answer to either question and they're not even close, to me, that means they just didn't care enough to try. And I'm right. And you should know I'm right. Now, the other possibility is that you thought you knew how to do it, you tried, you did your best, and maybe you made a careless mistake because, do you see how I copied them over here? I made a careless mistake. Careless mistakes happen. That's not a big deal. But when you're sitting out there for 10 minutes before class starts, and you're kibitzing, and you're talking, and you're having a good time, ordinarily that's a good thing. But not today. Today those quizzes should have been out. You should have been saying, hey, psst, what you get? Hey, let me see. And then you go up to some kid whose work you respect and you check their answer, and when it's different than yours, you find a totally different kid and check your work with their answer. And if those other two people got the same answer and you did not get the same answer, what does that mean?
You're wrong.
You're probably wrong. So then you get to work on it. So I don't care that the grade wasn't high for some of you who did take-home quizzes. I care about the thought process behind how the grade didn't get that high. Now look, there's a certain responsibility level that being in an honors class comes with. And that responsibility level is that you're going to up your game, that you're going to work to be the best student that you can be. It's not about, oh, I'm a little smarter than your average bear, so I should get a few more questions right than your average bear. I'm entitled to this. Not a chance. You need to work. You got to constantly ask yourself, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? How do I correct those things? So with that in mind, let's take a look at the answer to number one. First off, most people on the take-home quiz got 100. So I was not speaking to necessarily every person in the room. But if you did not get 100, where did you go wrong? There's two possibilities. Either you misunderstood something or it's a careless mistake. If it's a careless mistake, I don't really care because you're going to straighten that out on today or tomorrow's quiz. If it's something of misunderstanding, I care a lot. Now, I have to multiply two sides. So I did 2x plus 7 times x plus 3, multiply it all out, and I get 2x squared plus 13x plus 21. In other words, the product of these two binomials is this trinomial right here. And, you know, when I've started putting these quizzes up each and every single day, and I have to get to the point where I remember to show my work better. I'm doing so much of it in my head. I should have shown the triple distribute marks. I apologize for not doing that. I'll try to remember to do that on the next quiz. 2x cubed plus 11x squared. Oh, when you multiply it all across, I'm sorry. 2x cubed minus 2x squared plus 13x squared minus 13x plus 21x minus 21. And then when I combine like terms, I get 2x cubed plus 11x squared plus 8x minus 21. And that looked good. Now, as far as number two goes, again, there's a frustration point on my end. Listen, we've known each other now for, I guess, what, about 12 weeks or something like that, and in some cases longer. I really don't think I'm a control freak. I know I don't really, at the end of the day, I don't really care about how you do things. It's your life, you figure it out. But I can lend you a little bit of wisdom here. And I don't know how many times this year I have said to you two things. First, whenever you do one of these subtraction questions, well, let me say three things. First, everybody recognized from goes first. That was really good. Second, whenever you do one of these subtraction things, you always have to, you're much better off doing it horizontally, which I think just about every person did. But then the third thing, you always, what word did I just say? Always show the step where you change every sign. Look here. Here I have the from goes first. Here I have this in parentheses, the original trinomial. And then I have to distribute that negative sign. So I have to show the step where every one of these signs gets changed. So many of you on your paper didn't show that step. And I told you the story that we get these books, literally, about how to grade your Regents exam. They're like this thick. And they say, give credit for this, don't give credit for that. And every teacher in New York State gets this book because the examples they give you, 90 to 95% of all the work that the kids will do will match one of the examples they give you. And this would have been worth a 2-point question on your Regents exam. And what you will see is, if you do not show the step where the signs are changed, and you're wrong, you get 0 out of 2. They want to see the step where the signs are changed. Now, I've told you that at least 5 times this year. You have to hold on to nuggets like that. Generally speaking, an 85 is thought of as a really good grade on this Regents. A 90 is thought of as a spectacular grade. Can you imagine getting an 84 or an 89 because you didn't show the signs change? I would be furious with myself for that. So you have to learn part of the game here, not making me happy. It's learning how to present your answers in such a way that you maximize credit on the test. So many kids do not get as high a grade as they should get, and it is not a reflection of their intellect. It's a reflection of how seriously they take the way the state wants the work shown on this test. So you need to be better at that. All right. So that is the first, the take-home quiz. Now we have the next quiz. Listen, if you got number 1 wrong, there is extra help and there is the website. This should be autopilot for every person in the room. And I'm really not cranky. It sounds like I am, but I'm not. I'm just disappointed that somebody could walk in and get a question like this wrong. I stood here yesterday before you and I said to you, listen, why do they have the little 2s and 1s? Who remembers why I said they have the little 2s and 1s? Emma.
Because you have to keep the same coordinates like on each side.
And the order of the coordinates. In other words, and I said this yesterday, if I go right to left for the y's, what do I have to do for the x's? Go right to left. Or top to bottom, top to bottom. The whole point behind the sub 2s and the sub 1s is to say to you, you can't change order. And I said to you yesterday, if you change order, you will get the negative of the correct answer every single time. And there were some people who did this. 6 minus 4 over negative 3 minus negative 1. You'll never be right. You must do it in the same order. And that's why I put the little 2 and the little 1. Now, I did say yesterday that over time you don't do that anymore. But for now, just to help us remember. So when you read this, you don't read y sub 2 or y2, which a lot of kids like to do. You read this, the y from the second point minus what?
Y to the first.
Y from the first point over x from the second minus x from the first. And then you look up. There's the y from the second. There's the y from the first. There's the x from the second. There's the x from the first. So you really do need to pay attention to those things. Now, if you got this wrong, I am willing to bet that when I'm going over quizzes, you're doing your homework in here. Because I know how smart you are. And if you apply your brain power to what I just said, you'll get it right every single time, except the careless mistake. But the concept you'll get right every single time. If you didn't get it right, it's because your brain is busy being occupied with something else. I don't know if it's love. I don't know if it's tonight's homework. I don't know if it's you're cranky at your parents. But when you come in here, it's focus time. Focus on the task at hand. It is time to produce. Because if you don't produce, at the end of the day, whose life gets miserable? Does mine? Definitely not mine. It's yours. You're the one who gets frustrated. How many people here didn't get the grade they hoped for on this quiz? If that's the case, it's your fault. We went over these exact questions. Okay. Next one, I would have made a careless mistake again. But even I turn around and write this stuff out over here. 9 minus 3 is 6. 2 minus negative 1 is 3. 6 over 3 is 2. Y equals 2x plus b. Substitute either point, doesn't matter. There's my x, there's my y. I put them in, and I get b is equal to 5. So my correct answer is y equals 2x plus 5. Oh, sometimes I believe in corporal punishment. I just believe a smack is the best way to get the point across. Now, I've never hit a girl. Well, except when I knocked my sister down really hard. Oh, she deserved it. Oh, she did. I never told you this?
No.
Oh, God. She's not an idiot anymore. We used to get in fights. Anybody here get in a fight with a sister? Sister fights are the worst. Sister fights are the absolute worst. So, I did. So, my sister Sandy, at the time I was, I think, a junior in high school, but I might have been a senior. So, I was like 17, she was 14, something like that. Yeah, that was probably right. And we were sitting at the kitchen table one day eating dinner, and my mom, she used to give us salad, which was always lettuce, and then for dressing, she'd mix the ketchup and the mayo together, which kind of makes French. Well, that's French dressing. If you like French dressing, that's all it is.
Well, let us discuss this.
All right, well, that's what we would have every night, and it's important that you get a visual on this ketchup mayo mix into this orangey pinkish kind of dressing. And I'm sitting at the kitchen table, and now my sister and I fought our entire lives growing up. We always fought. And she was like the worst because she'd act so nice in front of my parents. And then as soon as my parents left the room, the bad curses would come out and the anger and the snottiness. And then they'd walk back in the room and she'd like, "Hi, Mom, Daddy." And I was like, because I can't turn it on and off. If I'm mad, I'm mad. If I'm not mad, I'm not mad. That's it. It's the testosterone. So my sister walks in, and we're sitting at the kitchen table, and we're discussing something at dinner. I'm not exactly sure what it was. Actually, I am, but it's not your purview to know. So we're discussing this, and my sister got angry with me, and she picked up her bowl of salad, and she dumped it on my head.
With the dressing?
With the dressing. So I sat there.
Did you have hair back then?
What's that?
Did you have hair back
I
then?
had a full head of hair that could be feathered.
Oh my God.
Right? Tell me about it. So, intertwined in those hair fibers I had back in the day was lettuce and an odd blend, a nuclear orange blend of ketchup and mayo. And it's dripping down my hair and to my cheeks and my forehead. And I look at my mother. Now, I don't know about your house, but in my house, Dad handles discipline. Like my mother's way of dealing with discipline, I'll tell your father. You don't want me to tell your father. I don't know if that happens in your house, but that was how it happened in my house.
Yep.
So my mother turns around, and I look at my mother after the salad gets dumped on my hair with the beads of dressing running down my face. And I go, "Are you going to do anything about that?" And she looks at me, and if you really want to get me mad, this is how you do it. She reaches over and she puts her hand on my hand and she goes, "Bobby, I am so proud of how maturely you're handling this." I wanted to hit her. So I said, "I'm going to go take a shower now, and you're going to punish her." And when I get out, I'm gonna like the punishment. So I go in the shower, and I honestly don't remember what the punishment was. But as far as I was concerned, it was over. Now, in our home, my dad worked the night shift. And you know I warred with my father. I don't care what any guy tells you. Every single guy wants the respect from his father. It's very important that your father respects you. And when you're young, you think being able to handle yourself physically is a really important way that you earn your father's respect. And you feel that if you can't handle yourself physically, then you don't have his respect. And I remember just before this particular day, I had an arm wrestle with my dad. And I was at the dining room table, and I'm ready to arm wrestle him. And like my mom was like the judge. So I just remember she says, start. And I remember looking at my mom, and she's like in the hallway to the kitchen. And I'm like, Mom, are you going to say to start? What are you going to do? She goes, I already said it. I said, well, tell us again. And I look down, and my dad is like pushing with all of his might. And there's beads of sweat across his balding head. And I'm like, I don't even feel you. And I just put his arm down. Now, I say that because it's an important part of the story in a minute. So that Saturday, we're eating dinner together as a family. And as we're eating dinner on that particular day, we're just sitting down, whatever we were making for dinner, I don't know, but we had that same salad we have every night growing up. And my sister, who was Daddy's little girl, she looks at my dad and she goes, you know what happened at dinner the other night? And I just looked up and I went, shut up or I will knock you out. And my dad was like, hey, we don't talk like that at my table, boy. And I'm just glaring at my sister like, I will knock you out. And I meant it. Oh, I absolutely meant it. She goes, and I'm like, don't start. Don't start. Because to a young man, this is the ultimate humiliation. This is like the worst, the absolute worst. Your father thinks you know, some girl 3 years younger than you dump salad on your head, you don't hit her in the head. No, this isn't going to happen. So my sister looks at him and says, the other night at dinner, I dumped salad on Bobby's head just like this. And she picks the salad up and dumps it on my head again.
Oh my God.
And I'll never forget this. I was sitting in my chair. My dad sat at one end of the table. I sat at the other end. And I don't know if your dad could do this, but my dad could. He had independent eyeball focus like a lizard. Okay? No, he did. Because he could watch his food with one eyeball and me with the other at all times. And it was like, take human bites. Everything I did wrong. Elbows off the table. Whatever I did wrong manners-wise, I heard about. But he never spilled any of his food until the end of the meal. Then he always came to dinner with a tank top on, a wife beater. And he would always spill some ketchup on it because he put ketchup on everything. So anyway, I'm sitting there, and she does this. And I'll never forget what went through my head. It's incredible how quickly you can think. I was going to hit her, and I did. I'm sitting down, and I was in very good shape at this point in my life. And I just said, I remember clenching my fist and wanting to punch her hard as I could with my fist. But somehow, in the nanosecond that this delay occurred in, I knew enough to back it off so it was like this, rather than like this. And I just went, bam, right in her face. Caught her right on the side of the jaw. And I knocked her underneath the dining room table. I dropped her like a bad habit, and I gotta tell you, I felt so good. I felt like, yes! God, I've been waiting years for that. God, that felt good. And then, I don't know if you know this or not. Now, I think in some pretty obvious way, you all know that a girl's body is different than a guy's body. I think we're all clear about that. But there's a subtle way in which a girl is different than a guy. That is not so obvious.
Testosterone.
No, it's not. No, the testosterone causes the things. If you look very, very closely under an electron microscope, get on your lab coat, look under the electron microscope, and you look very closely at the corners of every girl's eyes, there are little tiny water faucets. There are. Because they know exactly when to cry. It's unbelievable. And she's sitting there under the table, and she looks up at me. And I'll never forget the look on her face. She was like, "Oh my God, you did it! I can't believe you did it." And then she resorts to female survival mode. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. So she gets so mad, or starts crying, and now my dad's mad because, "Da, da, 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 my little girl is hurt. I will be Superman." Now my dad, who was at the time about 280 pounds, I was 180 pounds. I was in very good shape. I wrestled. I was strong. I was in plenty of fist fights when I was young growing up. My dad is 100 pounds heavier than me, and he smokes 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Do you think he's going to catch me?
No.
Not a chance. So first he chases me through the house. Then he chases me around the backyard. And I'm doing one of those, like, sideways, "Hey, Pop, you don't have to be so mad about this." And it's almost comical, but eventually I make a really big mistake. I go into the garage. And as I walk into the garage, I realize there's only one way out, and he's standing in it. I will never forget this. I really did hate my dad growing up. I really, truly did. And I will never, ever, ever forget this moment in my life. I'm standing with my back to the garage wall, and I look down on my left, and there's an axe. And I look down on my right, and there's a pitchfork.
Oh my
And I
God.
said to myself, "I hate him. Do I pick up this pitchfork, or do I pick up this axe, and do I bury it in his skull? What am I going to do here?" And then he starts going like this. "Get out of here before I hurt you." And I swear to this day that the only reason he didn't hit me is because I mauled him in an arm wrestling a week before. And he was afraid. I really do think that. And so I went out and I left the house. So that was how dysfunctional my house was growing up. All right. All was bad. Thank you so much. All right. Now. All right. We only have about 5 minutes left, but the good news is today's lesson is really easy. Okay. So what we're going to do is this. You ready? Make sure, by the way, that you study up on that test, that you don't screw up those questions again. Take a look at this first line. Y equals -1/2 x plus 4. Everybody, why did this not happen? What's the slope here, guys? Everybody.
-1 over 2.
-1/2. What's the y-intercept?
4.
4. So, where do we begin? Everybody.
4, of course.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4, of course, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, Anthony.
Because B can also be like where you begin.
That's right. Down 1/2, down 1/2, down 1/2, down 1/2. I sure hope my sister doesn't hear that story on the internet tonight.
Or Facebook.
Yeah, well, no, she won't know
Wait, you
about
were
it from
recording
there.
the whole thing?
Oh, yeah, I recorded the whole thing.
Now I get to watch it again.
All right. Now, what's the slope here for the second line? Come on, talk to me. What's the slope, everybody? 3, or 3/1. Good. And what's the y-intercept? -3. So I begin at -3, up 3/1, up 3/1, up 3/1, up 3/1. I'm going to draw this line. Now, the red line that you see graphed before you on the board, that is a picture of every single, hey, head the game. That is a picture of every single coordinate pair, XY pair, input-output pair, that check in this equation. For instance, the point 0,4 checks. For instance, the point 2,3 checks. For instance, the point 4,2 checks. Every one of them checks. The blue line is not a picture of all the points that check in the red equation. It's a picture of what? All the points that check in the blue equation. Good. There's a magic point here. The magic point is this guy. That point is very special because it's on both lines. If it's on both lines, it is the point of intersection, but if it's on both lines, what happens with respect to a check?
It checks for both.
It checks in both, that's exactly right. So the simultaneous solution is 2, 3. It's the one point where the two lines cross. So if I plug in a 2 and a 3 to this guy, let's do it very quickly. 3 equals 2 times y equals 3 times 3 times 2 minus 3. 3 equals 6 minus 3. 3 equals 3, check. And likewise, if I also did it over here, I would get 3 equals negative 1/2 of 2 plus 4, and that checks as well. 3 equals 3, check. So this is what we call the simultaneous solution, it's where both check. Jane,
What it did, because I didn't know exactly what you wanted, I didn't really understand the common solution one.
Right.
But what I did was, I did, 1/2, yeah, 1/2, negative 1/2 x plus, I combined the two, not combined, I did, both the equations, and I made them equal to each other.
yeah, that's called algebraic solution, we'll do that in a couple
But I
days.
got 2 x.
Right, but then you have to go back and get y. Oh, hold. Why is there still noise? Get your calculators out, very quickly. Under y equals, type in these two equations,
Oh, I don't even like that.
quickly. Then go to table, and one of the sections of the table will be this. Okay, find out where x is 2, and then you'll see that both y's are the same. Another way to find the simultaneous solution is to put them both in the table, find out where the y's are the same, and then you have your solution. Okay, we will do 2 more of these on Monday. Hasta la vista, vaya con Dios, toodaloo, ta-ta, arrivederci, smile a lot, ciao.
Listen, wait, I just found it. It was like all the way in my backpack.
It's too late now. But you know what you do, just use it as a guide for the one you took today to get it tomorrow.
The following students to guidance, please. Giamara Aguilar, Mr. Santos,